Hello, everyone. This is Hitesh here. So today's topic will be our SQL. Okay. Now you also aware about the term called as an SQL, or sometimes we pronounce as a SQL, okay, depending upon the pronunciation. So SQL is basically a structured query language, okay, which is the most common language for extracting and organizing the data, which is stored in a relational databases. We have talked about the databases and we have talked about the different types of databases yesterday. Okay, what is meant by RDBMS, what is meant by relational databases, right? So in order to organize and maintain and extract the data and stored in a relational database is done by the SQL only. A database actually is a table that consists of rows and columns. We have talked about it. And SQL is the language of the databases, which facilitates the retrieving specific information from the database that are further used for the analysis. Even when analysis being done by the platform like Python, R, but SQL would be needed to extract the data there that you need from the company's databases or different types of databases, because it manages the large amount of data, especially if there is a lot of data which is being written simultaneously and there are too many data transactions as given. The different versions and frameworks for SQL are given, but the most commonly used is a MySQL. Okay, and second one, we also for the industrial things we use the Microsoft SQL Server, which is also called as MS SQL Server. Okay, now companies such as Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp all uses the SQL for the backend process and backend data storage, okay, and data processing solutions. When a SQL query is written and run, it is processed by a query optimizer, and the query reaches the SQL server when it compiles the three phases, that is parsing, binding, and optimization. Okay, parsing you can say a process where to check the syntaxes, and binding is to process to check the query semantics, and optimization is a process to generate the query execution plan. Okay, now in this query, as you can see, this is a particular SQL query which I have written. Okay, now what is SQL used for? We already know that we have understand what is SQL and how does it work. Now let's try to see that what SQL can do. Okay, now this particular programming language has a various uses for the data analyst and data science professional. Particularly, it is helpful because it can retrieve the data from a databases, it can update the records from a databases or in a databases, it deletes the records from the databases, it creates the new database or new tables in a database, it creates the stored procedures and views in a database, it sets the permissions on a table, procedures and views, it executes the queries against a database. So many things and so many works are there which SQL can perform. Imagine how difficult life would be if you do not know have a way to control the database in this particular format. Now, after getting some sense of particular what a SQL it is, okay, and how the query is executed, I have explained in a SQL by using the three top domains called as in parsing, binding, and the optimization. Okay, we will see some SQL basic commands then. Okay, some of the basic commands is given is a create, insert, alter, update, and delete. Okay, sometime we also call as a create, read, update, delete, call as include operations which is performed in SQL. Okay, create actually basically creates a new table or a view of a table or another object in a database, and it modifies the existing database object such as table, and deletes an entry table or view of a table or other objects in a database. Now select will go into also perform some retrieving the records from the data from a one or more table. Insert will going to create a record. Update will going to modify the record. Delete definitely deletes the records. So these are some basic SQL commands has been given. Okay, if you see this create, alter, and this delete, it defines some the complete structure of the data. That's why it comes under the data definition language set or command. Basically, we have four types of language. One is called as a DDL, that is data definition language. One is called DML, that is a data manipulation language. And one is called as a TCL, that is transition control language. And one we have a DQL, that is data query language. Okay, we also have a different call as a data manipulation, data definitions, then data query language, then transition query language. The different query languages we have. Okay. Now, if you see, now coming to SQL joins. Now, basically, if you see, we have four major joins to combine the data from the different rows and from the different tables. Because a SQL join clauses is like a cross join operation in a relational algebra, okay, which combine the column from one or more tables in a relational databases and to create a set that we can save as a table or used as it is. So join is a means for combining the columns from one or more tables, okay, and by using the values common to each. A critical skill and a frequently asked interview question in the particular SQL is a join only, which helps you lets you get a work done with a complex databases. And having the ability to manipulate the join queries with precision can give you the added advantage. We have four types of join basically, that is inner join, left join, right join, and full join. We have other join also called as you can say cross join or natural join, okay, self join. So these are some other joins have been there, but basically we have a four, that is inner, left, right, and full outer join. Okay, now we'll see the what is meant by keys in SQL now. There are basically two famous keys, which is called as a primary key and the foreign key. Okay, primary key is a key which identify uniquely each column in a particular table. Okay, it can act as a unique identifier for the each row. Okay, and it's a very common for the databases to have a column name as an ID. Mostly ID can be set as a primary key. Can you see the yellow icon in the ID part? Okay, that is can be a primary key. Okay, which uniquely identify each record in a particular table. We also have one key which is called as a foreign key. Okay, foreign keys are the columns in a table which specify a link to the primary key in another table. Okay, basically it will going to link to the that table which having the primary key as a, some kind of an references. So it is used to, you can say, establish references between the two tables, right? For instance, suppose as you can see here, customer and customer order has been given. Now my customer ID and here customer order ID has setting some kind of references from the both the tables, okay, and acting as a foreign key. And the link between the these two particular tables is called as a foreign key link. Okay, now sometimes what happen, there is a chances that what if you want to have a table that contains only the users that have done on the action. So basically for that we use the inner join, the concepts which you have learned now, right? So the particular we can execute this query at the table of the creation of the tables. Okay, now we will see how this all the queries has been get executed. Okay, we will see that how the all the queries has been get executed, because we have talked about the basic commands queries, we have talked about the joins, we have talked about the you can combine the tables, right? So we have talked about the primary keys and foreign keys, everything we have talked about. Now coming to the implementation part, I'm going to give you the some basic implementation about the how you can create a query. Okay, now let's see. First we will going to create the table, then we will going to alter the table, then we will going to delete that table, how we can drop the table. Right, so these are the some queries we're going to perform. Okay, now coming to, I am using my Azure Data Studio, which is writing for the SQL query and all the databases and non-relation databases. So I'm using my Azure Data Studio for writing the queries. You can use SSMS also, which is called as in SQL Server Management Studio, in order to execute the queries. Okay, and definitely for executing the larger query, you need to have a broader concepts in order to do that. And this is taking so much time. We'll set the parameters. can be a local host. Okay, this server name you can go with a dot or can be a local host, or you can maybe give a server name as your what is the laptop or the PC name you have, which you're going to find. Okay, there's some kind of a connection error I got. Let's see. Yeah, so I've enabled my connection and I've connected my this particular database with my server. Now let's create our queries. Okay, now you can see first we're going to create our database first. Okay, in order to create a database we have a command called as database, and we can name as database like SQL query, anything you can give, it depends upon you. Okay, now let's execute this particular query. You're going to see commands executed successfully, you can say starting executed, command successfully executed. Now let's create a table, right? Just now we have created. Now creating the table, you have to create a table name. The table name you can specify anything, like I'm specifying the SQL. Okay, so SQL I'm using, and let's create a table. Okay, now can you see when using this particular Azure Data Studio, it's having the advantages that it gives you the template in order to create any particular syntaxes in a table. But we will go with a simple syntax. This is a bit more complicated. So let's create table and give the table name as an SQL query only, right? And just give this data type like name as an name, table name or table ID. Just I said, you can specify the give the data type, and you can specify the keys in a particular table in here only, primary key, right? And now table name, right? Table names, and you can specify the varchar character. Varchar is used for the text and int is for the numbers. You can specify 25 or anything before the 255 value. So I've created this particular table. Now run this. Now you're going to see command completed successfully. Can you see? Now you can specify the actual syntaxes of the T-SQL here, and the syntaxes which I have created is a far more differences, right? Now after creating the table we can delete the table also. In order to delete the table we can use the drop command, drop table, and give the table name as SQL query. Okay, and execute it. You're going to see command completed successfully. Now in order to view the table, okay, let's first create a table again and see our particular table has been get created or not. So in order to do that we have a select star from table name, that is SQL query. Okay, and now just use this. Can you see table ID and table name? Let's use this drop table in order to delete the table, and now again try to fetch it. You're going to say error. What? Invalid object name SQL query. It means that our table has been get deleted, right? Now we have said this one. We can also use like update, right? What are the updates we have? So regarding the updates, we can definitely will going to use update commands. Okay, so suppose now let's insert first record before updating. I'm going to use the insert table, give the table name as right now give the table name as suppose we have a SQL. First let's execute the query. Let's create the table because we have deleted. Now insert SQL. Let's have a perfect query here. Right. And we have a particular insert into table name, that is the SQL query. Okay, and let's give the column name which you want to specify. The column name can be a table ID like this one, and it can be a table name like this one, right? And then values, right? And values you can give here only, like table ID I'm giving as a 1, and I'm giving table names as a suppose SQL 1 I'm giving. Okay, now let's execute this. See, one row affected successfully. Now see the particular row. Can you see 1 and SQL 1? Now what I want, suppose now what you have done, some way you have just now let's update this particular to 2. Okay, I want to update this table ID with 2. Now in order to do that, update and give the table name as SQL query, right? And now suppose set you can set the column, that is a column name. Okay, that is a column name as we have table ID, right? Table ID, and table ID equal to what? Suppose 2. Okay, or okay, this is acting as a, suppose table name I want to update with respect to table ID. Now table names as SQL to SQL23 you can specify, where is a clause in order to specify the condition table ID equal to 1. Okay, it means I want to update the table name or table ID equal to 1. Update the SQL query. When this say 1 has been affected, now again view this query. Can you see SQL to 3? Right, so this is the update statement. Okay, we can also use call as an alter statement, guys. Okay, so in order to use the alter, suppose I want to modify some particular record, I want to means rename the table name, or I have to rename the different things. Okay, we can use the alter, or else we can use the store procedure for that. In order to rename the particular table name, suppose I want to rename, so sp underscore rename. Okay, give the old table name, that is the SQL query, and give the new table name as here, that is SQL queries, new SQL queries. Okay, like this one, and let's specify and just run this sp underscore rename. See, changes any part of the word. Now try to access this particular table now. See, you're going to see invalid object name. Okay, now try to execute with a different which we have changed, that is the latest one. Let's start from a new SQL and queries. Okay. Now again execute. So let's start from new SQL queries. Okay, we will find some kind of an error here. Okay, it's a queries. I have done with my spelling mistake. No worries. Queries I have written. See now, table ID, table name 1 SQL 2. Okay, now this has been renamed to SQL query to SQL queries, in this way. Got it? So these are some particular operations we can perform on the SQL servers. Okay, now if you wanted to learn how to perform the join conditions and different types of join condition, and how to perform several other clauses and all the other values, and in order to perform the different advanced concepts like views and indexes, triggers and store procedure, you can definitely connect to the Coachx.Live. It will going to guide you at the best level. Okay, so for today I'm just stopping now. You guys will again tomorrow meet with the new topics. Bye bye and take care everyone.